Lories, I'm Lori Vitale. On this episode of Lori in the Kitchen, I want to show you my version of a pumpkin pull-apart bread. It's like the new exciting thing in the food world. I've had so many of you ask if I could show you this recipe, and I played around with it quite a bit, and I have determined that this is my favorite way. It's going to start off with my cinnamon roll dough, which you guys know I love, and to make that you'll need some all-purpose flour, some sugar, salt. I've got some butter that I'm going to melt in just a few minutes, whole milk, an egg, some yeast, a little tiny bit more sugar, vanilla extract, and some water. This recipe is phenomenal. It's very similar to my cinnamon rolls or to my pumpkin cinnamon rolls, but just so good, and you're just gonna love it. I know you will. At the end of the day, it's gotta be delicious. I don't care how popular it is, it's gotta taste good. And I'm gonna make a little cream cheese glaze to put over top of this. The very first thing I'm gonna work on is activating the yeast, which is really important when it comes to a yeast dough. If you're not using instant yeast, you need to activate it. So to do that, I'm gonna mix together my yeast and my sugar, and I've got some water here that's warm at about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important that your water is warm, but you don't want it to be too hot because it's going to kill the yeast. You don't want it to be too cold, otherwise it's not going to activate. So I'm going to let that sit aside for just a few minutes, and in the meantime, I'm just going to add my dry ingredients to my bowl with my standing mixer. I'm going to use a dough hook. Leave the bowl here because you're going to use that to oil it so that the dough can rise. But I'm just going to wait for my yeast to activate, and I'm also going to go ahead and melt my butter. I'm just going to do it in the microwave, and then we'll add everything in pretty much. You can tell the yeast is activated. Okay, at this point, you just pretty much add everything in. This dough is so easy, it's foolproof, and it's just an absolute must-have in your recipe box because it works with so many different things, and you don't have to use it just for cinnamon rolls or whatever. You can do it with anything that your heart desires. Okay, I've added everything in. I'm going to add my yeast mixture. I am just going to quickly, using my spatula, give it a mix. It doesn't have to be perfect because I am just going to put my dough hook on here. And now I'm going to just let it mix on medium speed for around 3 to 4 minutes, or until you have a nice smooth dough. And in the meantime, I'm just going to grease up this bowl with some vegetable oil so that it's ready for this when I'm ready for it. So let it go for a few minutes or until it's smooth, and then we're going to let it rise. This looks good. It's nice and tacky, but it's not at all sticky. I've got my oiled bowl. I just like playing around with it. I'm just trying to figure out what else I can do with it, but it's good to go. I'm going to just put this in here, make sure it's oiled on both sides, otherwise it'll form a crust on it, like a dry crust, and I don't like that. Okay, I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, pop it somewhere warm. You know my favorite place to put my dough to let it rise is in the microwave. Don't turn the microwave on. I've had a lot of people over the years say to me, well, I took your advice and put it in the microwave, and then I turned it on and the whole thing went kaput. Don't turn the microwave on. Just put the plastic wrap on it and leave it there. It's the best spot for it because it's away from any drafts. It's away from anything being slammed and deflating it and all that jazz. And this is going to take about an hour to an hour and a half to double in size. And when it's there, we are going to proceed. Looking good. Saving my plastic wrap. Cup of coffee. Because, it's real life. It's what you do when you bake. Sip a little coffee, roll a little bit of dough. This has been rising for like an hour and a half. It looks amazing. I've got my toppings here. I've got some pumpkin butter. This is the homemade pumpkin butter I shared with you not too long ago. It is perfection. You're going to need some more brown sugar, some unsalted butter that's been softened, and you're going to need a little bit of flour. Now what I also have is a bundt pan. Now I'm going to give you options because the world and life is all about options, and I've always given you options. You can make this two ways. You can do it like I'm doing and making it in a bundt pan because I just think it's pretty for presentation and it's easy. Or you can use the same amount of dough to fill 2 9-inch loaf pans. It's all up to you. You do what you like. What I'm doing is making sure everything is floured because I'm going to roll this out into a rectangle. Nothing really specific, kind of like how you would make cinnamon rolls, You just want it to be one even thickness. That's the most important thing. So try to get it as even as possible, but don't worry, If it's not perfect, it just needs to be even in thickness. This looks good. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the butter. You want to spread your butter evenly over the surface. Make sure it's softened at room temperature so that it spreads evenly. Okay. Then you go with some pumpkin butter. Now remember, this is infused with apple, maple syrup, spices. It's one-stop shop. It's phenomenal. What I want you to do is just spread a nice layer of this, not too thick because I want it to be, I don't want it to be overwhelming. I just want it to be, you know, perfectly flavored, but not overwhelming and gloppy, because that's just, I'm not about that life. So just take your time, spread a little bit more where you need it. Like I know I'm going to need a little bit more over there. That's good enough. And then because the pumpkin butter isn't overly sweetened and the dough itself is not that sweet, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of brown sugar over the top. Not too much, because again, I don't want this to be sickening sweet, because I always find when something is too sweet, you can't taste anything else because your palate is completely overwhelmed by the sweetness. So just a little bit to make it taste really good, but not so much to give yourself a toothache. Although sometimes giving yourself a toothache because something is too sweet is okay. It's all good. I just want to spread this evenly, kind of sprinkle it with my hands and make sure your brown sugar is nice and soft. I'm going to cut stripes roughly about the same width. Again, don't grab a ruler and bring it out here. It's not that necessary, but you want it to be roughly about the same width. Okay, then what I like to do, you don't have to do it this way, but I like to think that this makes things a little bit easier. You take the strip and you place it on this one. You're stacking. You can do the whole stack at once, or you can do it in batches. I'm going to do 3, and then I'll do the rest of them. And then you cut this across like so. And now this is going to look sort of messy, and you're going to say to yourself, no, this isn't working, but trust me, it is. All you're doing is just working like so on kind of stacking these around. And trust me when I tell you, it's all going to work out beautifully in the end. Not only is it going to work out beautifully, it is going to be very delicious as well. So just you trust me. Cover this back up with the same plastic wrap. You can put a kitchen towel on top of it. And I'm going to pop it again in the microwave, this time only for about 20 minutes or so. I want this to rise a little bit, and I'm also going to preheat the oven in the meantime to 350, and then we are that much closer to popping it in the oven. This looks great. It is going to rise a lot more and puff up as it bakes, so do not panic. This is going to go in my oven that I have preheated at 350 for about 40 minutes or so. Then I'm going to let it cool for about 15 minutes before inverting it onto a cake stand to let it cool further. And then we're going to adorn it with a gorgeous cream cheese glaze to take it one step further, and then we're going to enjoy it. This baby was in the oven for about 40 minutes, and I have let it cool for about an hour or so. And then all I did was invert it, and then I flipped it upside down again because I like the top to be on top, if that makes any sense. But it doesn't really matter. It's completely up to you. Now, you can serve it just as is, and it is delightful. But I'm going to take it one step further by making a little icing or like glaze for it. But it's super simple and super easy. In this little bowl, I've got some cream cheese that's really soft at room temperature, vanilla extract, and some powdered sugar. And all I'm going to do is start by mixing this together, just kind of combining the cream cheese with the powdered sugar. And I also have some milk here, and I can add a little bit of it now just to help me get going. I'm not going to need to add too much, but I also don't want this to be like a frosting. I want it to be a nice glaze because I don't want it to be too thick and too overpowering and be too heavy, you know. I just want it to be just a little bit, you know, make it a little more extra special. So just take your time because you want to make sure this is really nice and creamy. Okay, looks good. Just take a little spoon, and I just like to spoon it like so. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about covering every little piece. It's gonna be delightful. That's good enough. I'm just really ready to dig into this. And look at this. I love how it pulls apart. I mean, I don't know how else to really put it. You see that? Just kind of beautiful, flaky, delicious. I'm trying to see where the glaze is so I don't disturb everything too much, but that is what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go for that one right there because I'm just one of those people. I'm just one of those people, kind of like the cinnamon rolls and stuff. I go for the center. I don't know what it is. It's like the best part. And this is so fluffy and good. And that glaze. Life made. I love everything about it. This dough is everything that's good in life. Look at that. It is just soft, it's pillowy, but yeah, on the outside it gets nice and golden. You must make this weekend. You want the recipe? LauraInNation.com. You're gonna love it. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.